All right, I'm Nick. Today I'm gonna take a few minutes. I'm gonna talk to you about this rudder. Now, the plastic rudder comes on all of your 2020 and newer Old Town products. Before that, the rudder was metal. I did a review, right over there in that corner in the grass when this kayak first came out, the Predator PDL, the 2020 Predator PDL. Fortunately, I was able to get my hands on it right before ICAST last year. James at Broxton Outdoors received an order of them. I brought it home. I looked it over. And if you know me, I'm pretty darn thorough. I don't just look at it and go, that's awesome. I look at things and I go, well, that's cool, but what about this? Because I spent a ton of time on the water. But I didn't want to fully say anything about this rudder until I had used it, at least 100 times. So we're far over that by now, right? And my initial concerns were durability. My initial concerns were based on the rudder just breaking, right? Just failing, because we beat them up pretty good. I don't baby my kayaks. I know a lot of guys who have kayaks and they rig them out and they live in their garage and they take pictures of them and sunset photos. We use ours hardcore. They get abused, right? The rudder, durability wise, it hasn't broke, right? I haven't broke it. And I know some guys who received theirs broken in the mail, but we haven't broke ours yet, which is great. Excuse me. But I didn't like how the tension knob adjusted. That was one of my first thoughts. This carrying handle is cool, but you got a carrying handle underneath here that's super sturdy and easier to use. One of the things I didn't expect, and I didn't think about this early, this rudder, it bends. The old metal one didn't bend on the water. It cut through the water just like a knife, right? But this guy, it flexes. Now this kayak is brand new. This kayak is brand new. It's been in the water like 3 times. It's still very, we'll say, rigid. But after you use it 100 times and you're out there in heavy current, you go to turn and this rudder goes with the current. It doesn't give you that response instantly. So the turning on the newer kayaks isn't as good as it was. Now, obviously, Old Town opted for this plastic rudder because it saved them money, but it hinders the performance of the kayak over a longer duration, which is not what I want. It's really frustrating. It actually really bothers me. I spent so much time on the water, and over the last few weeks, we started going offshore again. Well, offshore, the current's been very, very heavy. Never had any problems turning offshore or any kind of response issues because the current wasn't a big deal to a metal rudder. It didn't bend. It just cut right through the water. You instantly turned. But now I have felt it. It's sluggish. You move the rudder handle and it'll turn, but you can feel it. There's pressure. And that's because this is actually bending in the current, which is crazy to think about. But when you're out there and that current is broadside and you're drifting 3 miles per hour and you go to slap that rudder and turn, and this is being pushed like this, you don't get nearly as much response. Now, if you have a different opinion, you better go put it to the test before you comment and tell me I'm wrong, because I've put it to the test and I know a lot haven't had the opportunity. Prior to this plastic rudder, the metal rudder did not have a turnbuckle system. And I know that I said in multiple videos prior to them changing it to plastic that there's no reason there shouldn't be a turnbuckle system here. And they're gonna watch this video and they're gonna take it for feedback and hopefully they make some changes. But there was no reason they couldn't add this same turnbuckle system on top of the metal system and keep the metal rudder, allow you to maintain all your rigidness and move on with life. The next thing that I didn't like about this was my initial thing I didn't like about it was there's no nut down here. Now, get up there. There's no nut right here. All this bolt does now, it just has a little split ring on it, which probably, once again, saved them money. But now you can't adjust the tension here. You're forced to only adjust the tension at the steering knob. And we'll move over there in a minute and I'll show you why I do not like that. It's cool for certain things, but it doesn't give you the best boat. It doesn't give you the best functioning boat or platform or kayak or whatever you want to refer to it as. I hated it. And I'm still not a fan. So I'm gonna move the kayak over there, and I'm gonna show you, or move the camera over there, and I'm gonna show you why. All right, now you can see this rudder. Now this one has not been used. This is obviously a client kayak. It doesn't have much time on the water. Here's your tension knob. Now you can loosen that thing all the way out. Everything turns nice and easy. But now you can tighten this down, and they'll be like, okay, when we tighten it down, it locks the rudder in place. Now you can stay at that angle. And then once you want to turn, you can just do this, okay? But if you want to function this thing actually all the way down and you tighten it, now you're stuck there. So you have to take this and pull on it pretty hard to get it to move. So if you get it too tight, now you can't turn. And if you're in a dangerous situation, you are now in trouble. Whereas before, see how it cuts that up too? All it does is cut that plastic up all the time, like so. Now, before, we're gonna move back to the back. Before, you could adjust this knob and you can control your tension back here, which meant the tension on your hand would always be the same without having to make an adjustment. So all you did was tighten this nut. It was a Phillips head bolt that came through the top and a lock nut on the bottom, and you tightened that to the tension that you wanted, which meant it still had enough flexibility or enough wiggle to move. So if you're out there in the Gulf of Mexico and this is up here, it could still be controlled without any kind of issues if you needed to just slap on it real hard and move it. But if you have to lock it by your hand, you don't have that ability to tighten it. The other thing is there's a bunch of play here now that wasn't there if you had a bolt and a nut. So those are things that have changed. Move the camera back to where it was originally real quick. All right, we're at the back of the kayak again. Now, it works, but it doesn't work as well as the metal rudder. That's the whole point of this. A lot of these kayak companies are trying to compete with each other in certain markets, but they're cutting corners in other markets. Some companies aren't cutting any corners. They're just trying to build you a Bentley. Other companies are trying to build you a Kia and sell it as a Bentley. This is frustrating to me. This should be metal. It should have stayed metal, and they should have added a turnbuckle system to it. So if you have a 2018, 2019, and you're considering buying a new one, you need to factor that into your decision. You don't have the durability you once had, and that rudder is not going to perform the same way it did prior. Keep that in mind. A lot of you guys don't fish heavy current. Some of you do fish heavy current. For me, I want as much turning power as possible, especially when I'm coming back into the surf or I'm exiting the surf. Any kind of sluggish movement or sluggish ability to turn is going to cause problems. It's going to get me or one of the clients hurt. Plastic rudder, no go. Need a metal one. Much prefer it. Hopefully, going forward, they make those adjustments and they give us a metal rudder. If you guys have any questions, comments, or thoughts about it, just leave a comment and let me know.